In the previous lesson, we added this image to our app. Now let's take this app to the next level and allow the user to tap on this image. With our text component, we achieve this by handling the onPress event, right? But the image component doesn't have this prop or event. This is where we can use touchable components. So we can make anything touchable. Here are the touchable components in React Native. We have touchable highlight, touchable opacity, touchable without feedback. The touchable component we use will depend on the kind of feedback we want to give to our users. Let me show you. So back to our code, let's import touchable without feedback. And note that I'm not typing the complete name of this component. I'm using shortcuts. So I'm typing a little bit of it like TOUWF and then press enter. This is much faster than typing the complete name of a component, okay? Now, to make this image touchable, we have to wrap it inside a touchable without feedback component. So once again, I'm going to use a shortcut to touchable without feedback, press enter. Now, let's move this image inside touchable without feedback. So I'm holding Alt and then pressing the up arrow. With this, we can move code like this. Okay. Now, this touchable without feedback has an event called onPress. It also has an event called onLongPress. This is useful when we want to allow the user to tap and hold on a component. So here, let's handle the onPress event. Here we can pass a function. Let's do a console.log and say image tapped. Now, save the changes. So when I tap on this image, nothing happens because we're using touchable without feedback. It doesn't give us any visual feedback. But if you look at our terminal, we can see our message. Now, let's replace this with a different kind of touchable. So on the top, let's import touchable opacity. Now, let's replace this with touchable opacity. So touchable opacity, we should also replace this tag. Take a look. So when we tap on this image, its opacity gets reduced so we can see the background. This is why this touchable is called touchable opacity. For a fraction of a second, it reduces the opacity of what we are making touchable, okay? Now let's look at touchable highlight. So we import it on the top, touchable highlight, and then use it over here. Now using Command and D, as I told you before, we can select both instances and replace them in one go. Touchable highlight. Save the changes. Take a look. So when we tap on this image, its background gets darkened for a fraction of a second. This is the effect of touchable highlight. So these are the three cross-platform touchable components we have in React Native. We also have a touchable that is specific to Android. It's called touchable native feedback. It's not supported on iOS, so when we use it, we get a warning. Let me show you. So let's import touchable native feedback. Now, let's use it here. Touchable native feedback. Save the changes. On iOS, we get this red box. Touchable native feedback is not supported on this platform. So later in this section, I will show you how you can detect the platform in which this app is running. So if it's running on iOS, perhaps we can use touchable opacity. If it's running on Android, we can use touchable native feedback. Now let's try this touchable on an Android virtual device. So I'm going to bring up my Android virtual device. When I tap on this image, nothing happens. Because this touchable doesn't really work with images, it works with views that have a background color. Let me show you. So back to our code. On the top, let's import the view component. Now, we're going to replace this image with a view. Let's give this view a few styles. So we set the style prop to an object with a few properties. Width, let's say 200. Height, I'm going to use 70. And background color, let's set this to Dodger blue. Now save the changes. Take a look. This is the native feedback effect that we have on Android. So this is all about touchables. Next, we're going to talk about buttons.